There really is nothing more Hollywood loves than to jerk off to its own history.
Family, your cronies, liquor. I gave you a second chance.
You cannot capture a man's entire life in 2 hours. All you can hope is to leave the impression of one.
Why Hurst? Outside his own blonde Betty Boop, you're always his favorite dinner partner.
Are you familiar with the parable of the organ grinder's monkey?
This year's big Oscar darling is the story of Citizen Kane screenwriter Herman Mankiewicz, and in true film nerd fashion, it's made in the style of a 30s era film, specifically Citizen Kane, with techniques and beats paying homage to Welles' directorial debut. So unless you're such an old Hollywood nerd that you'd already know who these people are, this really isn't anything all that special. It's not that it's bad or anything, it's not bad by any means, it just reeks of for your consideration. I've talked about these sort of things before, and with this, the tributes to Citizen Kane, the use of scene headings typed out on an old typewriter, or looking like they're typed out on the typewriter on the screen, the references to old Hollywood, this was made to be awards bait, pure and simple. There isn't anything wrong with that. A lot of great movies are made with the subtext of putting a hand out to the Academy and going, but it rings hollow when that subtext basically becomes the text. I had the same issue when I saw The Artist a couple years back. My mom and I went to see it after it had won Best Picture, and we both just didn't see what was so special about it. Yeah, it's a big love letter to silent film, but that's it. It's a reminder that the Oscars aren't always a meritocracy, and that the Academy has its preferences that it's more likely to award on top of backstage politicking. It also makes me wonder how much of this is actually true to life. Because it's such a pastiche, it adds a veneer to whatever the truth is and plays up the artistry. I mean, in reality, Herman Mankiewicz at this point was actually 20 years younger than Gary Oldman is, and in fact died at the age of 53. Not that Gary Oldman does a bad job or anything, he's never given an actively awful performance since the 90s when he was in like Quest for Camelot and Lost in Space within the same year, but it does feel like he's a bit too old for the part. Amanda Seyfried, though, is fantastic, although she's sadly not in the film a whole lot. And the rest of the supporting cast are all solid. Charles Dance is good as William Randolph Hearst, and British newcomer Tom Burke does a solid Orson Welles when he shows up. The acting isn't ever the problem here as much as it is the storytelling. It's so beholden to being a tribute to Citizen Kane that it kind of gets lost in that film's shadow. Looking at the nominations for Mank, Best Picture is a good bet, since Hollywood does love movies about itself. Fincher is a solid choice for Best Director, though he's already run a bunch already, so I'd rather it go to some of the newcomers. Oldman's performance is good, but Best Lead Actor needs to go to Chadwick Boseman. Dude knocked his performance in Ma Rainey out of the water. Plus, Oldman already got his Oscar once already. I need to see The Father and Minari before making a decision, but I think Seyfried and Bakalova deserve Best Supporting Actress more than Glenn Close did for Hillbilly Elegy. I'm actually surprised that Trent Reznor worked on the score for this. I'm so used to him doing more of the ethereal type of music we hear in Soul. I think Soul is actually better for them to win, but I do feel it's unfair that he and Atticus Ross get nominated twice, taking the spot away from one of the other composers out there. The sound work here is solid, as it's recreating the 30s sound. I still think Sound of Metal should win, but they deserved the nomination nonetheless. Production design is great, and because they're creating, a different time period, and they're using a whole, older style of filmmaking to do it, and they put in a lot of work to it. But it's either that or Ma Rainey, but I don't have a preference one way or the other. Cinematography was probably the most noticeable for me since they worked to use styles and techniques from that era. Honestly, I kind of hope Messerschmitt gets it, since his stood out to me the most among the nominees. And then for makeup and hairstyle and costume design, both are solid nominations, though honestly, for those two, I'm more pulling for Ma Rainey. Mank is definitely going to walk away with a few awards, although it could win nothing for all we know. The thing is, it probably won't be remembered after the award season is over. Like, does anyone even remember The Artist before I mentioned it in this video? In his devotion to being a tribute to Citizen Kane, Mank ends up just being a lesser movie because of it. An imitation instead of the genuine product. People will still talk about Citizen Kane for years to come, but Mank probably won't last much longer than being another award winner. That isn't to undermine all of the work that went into this movie. They put so much effort into recreating the style of a 30s era movie, and it shows. But all that work was done in making what is essentially the Citizen Kane treatment to the guy who wrote Citizen Kane. Until next time, I'm John Bailey, and I should check out that TV movie about making Citizen Kane at some point. Fun fact, Liev Schreiber plays Orson Welles in it, and James Cromwell is William Randolph Hearst. Wait, John Malkovich is Herman Mankiewicz in it? Okay, it's an HBO movie, so it's not just like a regular TV movie. This is HBO we're talking about, which means that it's also available on HBO Max. Excuse me, I gotta see this.